Oh. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Craft Cafe Live Show. We are here. I'm your host, the host of all things craft, LaToya Riggins. You can call me LC, and we are here with none other than Jamal Berry. You guys, I am excited to have you, Jamal. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, LaToya?
I'm doing wonderful. And I have up here that you are the president and CEO of Educare, but that's not everything. It's I have it in the bio, all of the different things that you do. And I just wanted to kind of note some of those things that I actually looked you up because I know you as a person, but I know what you do in real time. But when I looked you up, I was like, damn, when does this man sleep? So he was the 2024 Aspen Institute Ascend Fellow. What he's coined one of the most influential speakers and voices of this industry. So I'm like, wow, you're so cool. I know you got all of these accolades, but when I went and read about it, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I know him.
You must have used AI. That means I read it. I wrote that myself in there.
Well, good. But it was well, listen, are you the treasurer of the DC Head Start Association? Is that real?
That's real.
Okay, so it's the chair of the head chair of the Healthcare for Child Care Advisory Council.
That's real too.
Ow, okay, 2019 UCLA Management Fellow.
Yeah. That's
Ah,
oh, that's
you know what I'm saying? PBS Kids Early Learning Champion.
yeah.
And that's just to name a few. It was, I didn't want to make it too long, so I didn't put everything. But I was just looking like, oh my goodness. Like, no wonder you can really speak to all of the different things, because you've been there, done that. So when I think of Educare, y'all, as a mom, I try to get my kids in there because I love the space. I love the natural light. I just love like their approach to early childhood education. So when my kids were small, I didn't know you yet. You know what I mean? So I'm like, wow. So that's why I wanted to bring you on and bring you back because, and guys, what I didn't mention is his involvement in the DC Men and ECE, not just the conference, but the whole organization and all the work that he does with really bringing up men into this industry. And that's where I met you just because I was trying to find men to come on because I really think that is detrimental to really support men in this industry because you already know it's a little lopsided. So
A little bit.
yeah,
97% lopsided. Yeah.
so Dr. Gullen told me about you guys. So when I got to meet you, and I'm like, wait a minute. So right here in our own backyard, you have this going on. And I was able to come to your conference and everything. So I was excited to bring you back on and talk about what's happening right now in the state of childcare. We're in DC, guys, just so you guys know. Well, it does say Educate DC, but just so people know, we've been having so much going on in the city when it comes to childcare. So I definitely wanted to kind of get your insights about how you guys are coping with this and, just what's happening, kind of fill us in on where we are in childcare in DC.
Yeah. So what's on everybody's radar right now is that pay equity, which is how we pay teachers right now. Compared to our public school teachers was on the chopping block by the mayor. She did not put it into her budget, which means that the council has to find the money again. And they found it, you know, 2 years ago. They found the money and had to change their budgets around it. So it's just hard times. A lot of things were cut for young children. Also on the chopping block is childcare subsidies at a certain percentage. And so what that does to centers is it does not allow them, one, to have mixed, braided, blending, whatever type of word you want to use for it, funding models where they're able to actually try to make um, uh, a revenue for their sites, especially for-profit or for our family childcare homes. It really puts them in a hard situation when families, the money that supports families to work is taken away, which means families can't work, which means they may not apply for resources. And so it's just a revolving door. Along with that being that they're taking the teacher pay down. And so they're lowering the minimum. They lowered it in January of 2026. Um, we would need a certain amount back, 60 million, to keep it where it is now, which is lower than what the original was, or 96 million to take it back to what it was prior to January with an increase for teachers. So the reality of it is that when we have flat funding, it's a deficit, right? When you don't get additional money, when the federal government doesn't apply COLAs, when more money does not come into a program, but cost of living in the community continues to go up, then people, staff, teachers, families feel that. So that's where we are right now in DC.
That's crazy, Jamal. Like when I was looking at it was a video with Trayon White, and he was speaking up about it. And I was like, when they were talking about the figures, and what kind of got on my nerves was when he was asking the questions, nobody had a real answer. They were like, "Oh, what? Where was that?" Where I was like, "Oh, this is pissing me off." Like, like, speak to this, And I had no idea that they took it off 2 years ago. So this has been going, I'm thinking this is like right now. And one of the things that, especially in DC, they have this push for you have to have this level of education and this level of that. And when I was doing workforce development heavy, that was an issue for me because that's when it was first beginning, like the quality care and where you had to have a CDA and then they switched it to associates, then they switched it to a bachelor's. And people are going out really getting their degree. And then they go for the job and they're trying to pay them the same minimum wage as somebody walking in off the street. So it's like, how do we justify the education piece? And if we can't even pay them what they even not just work, but what they need to even survive.
And I know you and I talked about that before, right? That factor of that, you're asking people to get more credentials, but not willing to pay higher wages. And so now we're in a place where we ask them to get more credentials. They received more credentials, and then now we're trying to take it back, right? So it's almost like a facade. I mean, when I talk to
Yeah.
teachers about it, they like, I mean, the real is they like, I feel like the mayor and the council are playing in my face. They told me to go get a bachelor's, I got a bachelor's, and then you still want to pay me that. So now that is why I think collegiate programs are struggling with recruiting teachers in the teacher prep programs because people do not want, I mean, teaching is a mission driven field. You have to care about children. You have to want to see children succeed. But just because we're in nonprofit or we're in spaces where it's hard work doesn't mean our pockets should hurt because of it, right? And so
Right.
we got to be able to pay teachers. We have to be able to pay teachers, and so we're fighting for that. How we're coping with it, I try to help programs to think about innovative ways to do it, what to cut, what not to cut, because I mean, we want to keep our teachers at the same, and we can't if the pay equity fully goes away. If it goes down, I have to think about cutting other stuff in order to do that because I want my teachers to feel valued.
That, like, as a leader, that's super hard. And like with all I keep seeing all this funding coming in, private funding. And then even with I was talking to the people over at Howard, Howard University, and I'm asking them like, how are you guys supporting people to come in here? Because I was working on, I had posted about the degree completion program, and because Dr. Gullen, he wanted me to do it, and it's for human development. I went over there to explore it. Seems like a great opportunity, but I was like, there's so many people that could use this. But what happens after it? Because I was like, it's a fraction of the cost of a normal degree, but how are people supposed to pay for this? And then what happens afterwards? And I'm like, this industry that we're in, because I'm thinking about, ECE people, all the different positions that they have. How can they afford to go to school and then don't have a job to come out to, you know? So I feel like it's a shared responsibility. Is the government, the schools need to be, the universities that are actually asking you to come and want to recruit you, and they should have a hand in this too. You know what I mean? Because I think everybody should have a hand in it because it's like you
And we
said,
used to have it. We used to have it, right? When I went to so undergrad, I went to Bowie State University, and I had a Hope Scholarship to be an educator. For my master's program, I was a part of something that's called Project ITAP, and it covered 70% of tuition. Like you're absolutely right. Now, as dumb 20-year-olds, we always took out more loans than we needed. that's neither here nor there.
The refund checks.
People I mentor now, I'm like, do not do it. It will not be worth it. And I didn't take out too many, but more than I needed, which was crazy. But they used to have that federal funding. That is more of a federal issue where like Educare, even as a network, is getting involved in that, because when the money stops from the top down, it's just putting too much on states, which puts too much on programs, which has us in these deficits, which then cause people to close down, right? And the more we close down, the lower the quality of sites will be, because they can't afford to do it. I was talking to New America with a blog, and they were asking, why is it so hard to estimate your cost of care at your site? And I said that's typically because programs are offering care based on what they get, not on what they believe children deserve. Whereas
Mhm.
we will go to the max, right? So 3 teachers in the classroom, mental health specialists, inclusion specialists, leadership staff, because that's what children deserve. And then we fundraise what we call the quality gap. So it's the cost of care that we get that's local and federal, and we fundraise for the rest of that to close that gap.
I like that. So fundraise on the cloud. So with Educare, are you guys a nonprofit?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you have to pretty much go out and do your own fundraising.
Absolutely.
My
It's my
goodness.
job.
That's tough in itself because everybody's hungry. Everybody is got the hand out for the funding. And like you said, and with the pay equity going, one of the things that I've been seeing around on social media is about the changing of the districts as far as the voting. What can people do to support it? What can people do, like the average person that's not maybe not even be in childcare, because they care about it too. Everybody needs it. So it's like, but I think people don't really know what to do. I don't even really know what to do. So like what would you say that we could do to help?
No, that's a really, really good question. So for us, if you contact our public affairs at educaredc.org, we will give you steps to either calling your council if you are a DC resident. If you're not a DC resident, writing letters and or just supporting us for certain things. So we had an advocacy, a Ward 7 advocacy day where we took staff and we were with a board member from National Children's Center, and we went around to different offices and talked to people. We had the Center of the Whole, the Council of the Whole hearing that was last week or the week before, and we took 15 people there, and every time we go, the council member or the chairman is pretty mad because he's like, I don't know why all these Educare people have to be here. And we're like, because this is that important to us. So we go in our Educare shirts, we make sure they know who we are,
Oh,
but
that's good.
it's strategic when we do all that. So we ask people to just join us in that fight, whether it's writing a letter, calling council member, blowing their phone up, and or coming to the rallies that we have. You have the National Day Without Childcare that's coming up. There's so many different things that are happening around the city that just got to keep your ear to the streets.
Definitely. So all of this is on pretty much, you said it's on the website, on your website, where people can kind of not contact, but get a list of who they need to contact or who they need to write the letters to.
Yeah, if they email us. There's some other organizations that it's on their website, like DC Early Learning Collaborative has it on their website. I think they actually have a sample letter. Like if you fill your name in and fill in something, they'll do that. I'm also, so these are all the titles that are not on the website that I don't even talk about. I'm on the executive council for the Under 3 DC Coalition too. So DC Action for Children has a good mechanism. Travis Bell is their director of coalition and does a great work of getting people involved. And so if you contact public affairs at Educare DC, go to DC Action for Children, look up Under 3 DC, look up DC Early Learning Collaborative. All of these organizations are connected in that way to get people involved.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's why I wanted to kind of shout that out because I think people care about it, but I don't think they know what they can even do, or if they can even be a part of doing something about it. Because when you start hearing 96 million, I'm like, I don't got no money. I wish I could
All right.
say I'll send y'all
Start looking at
$20.
your own bank account, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I can send you $20, but we need way more than $20. And then, like I said, I feel like right now is the time where the private funders can, be of service too, in the meantime. But
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely needs to be a federal thing. And
Yeah,
it's
and
sad.
remember, LaToya, the money came and it was already earmarked for early childhood. We passed a bill in DC to tax the top 1% of earners over 200,000 a year. And when they did that, they were able to get about 72 million a year. What happens that I had to understand all this stuff, because this is where you hear people saying the mayor stole the money and all that. But when you raise money and have revenue generators, they go into the fund, right? Into like a general operating fund. And she has, the mayor, whoever it is, he or she has the ability to choose what it goes towards. So did she steal it? No. But the rationale and those residents agreed to being taxed an additional 1% for the purpose of raising teacher pay. And it's called the
Right.
birth to three law. So it's a little fraudulent. It's sad
Yeah.
because so now the option is either cut other programs or have another revenue generating option, which just takes years to go into play. You don't just, go to law and say we're going to raise taxes and then it happens and then you get the money the next day. It's a process.
And that's crazy. That makes me sad because, and I'm glad I'm learning this because I'm not a political person, but I feel like I need to be more involved in it because it goes so daggone deep. That's why when I started watching those videos, I was like, wait, he's asking straight, bold-faced questions and in front of everybody. They're like, oh, where does it say that? And she's reading it. This is your document. And they like, oh, So I mean, I was looking at the Howard University graduation just happened last week, and they said the mayor spoke and they booed her. And I was wondering, I was like, why they boo her? And then I was like, I don't know why we would boo her, but why the Howard University students would boo her? Like, I don't know.
I feel
It,
like education period has been cut. I mean, I don't know too much about the
yeah.
college realm, but I think period. I mean, what she is really, she has a growth agenda. Who loves her are businesses, especially large businesses,
Mm.
especially people that are into the sports arenas. They love her because they have benefited from her being in that role. And she has done some great stuff. Like if you follow her on Facebook or anything, I mean, I'm pretty sure
I
it's
voted
hard to
for
be a
her.
mayor.
So I'm like, what the
Right. Yeah.
hell?
I'm sure it's hard to be a mayor. She's done some good stuff, but we personally don't feel like she's ever really invested in early childhood in the way we would want a mayor to invest. Like she isn't bought into it. I think she's like, we can fix it K to 12. And a lot of what we train our teachers on is it takes 2 good years of teaching to make up for one bad year. And the message that she said the other day was children need to go to real schools with real teachers. If that is the case, if you are saying that children don't go to school to age 5, based on the research, that it takes 2 years to make up for one year, if kids from zero birth to 5 get nothing, they're not in any sites, they're just staying at home or they're in daycare, then you get nothing. In that kindergarten, they're already far behind, and it's going to take them 10 years to make up for that. Now we're talking about third grade, fifth grade reading scores, which is why we're behind. We need high quality education. There's so much research that just shows the higher quality site that a child is in by age 2, the better they are, the more money they will make later, the more likely they are to go to college, all of the things. And so investing in early childhood is literally investing in our future, and we missed the ball on that.
I agree. Because I got teenagers in high school and I call the schools. I'm like, why they don't have no homework?
Mhm.
They're like, well. And I see the little packets. It don't make no sense. I was
Yep.
like, this is your homework? Like, I have a senior in high school and she brought home a packet. They said, well, mommy, they don't really teach us. They just give us packets and we have to read the passage. And I'm looking at this, Jamal, and it's about 9/11. So, we was there. So I'm like, let me see what they asking these kids. All of the questions, like the next question is the answer to the previous question. I was like, do they just think these kids are dumb or they just get like don't care? Like, what is this? Like, so I'm like, wow, like if my kids didn't have that early child care aspect, and then I at my own stink on it too, I give them assignments and stuff at home, they would not be able to get out of high school because they wouldn't have that foundation. So what I'm thinking, like you said, if people think that you don't have to start early, like I don't understand. And then with the people in place, I understand, like you said, it is hard to be a mayor. It's hard to be any type of elected official because you can't please everybody. But the big picture has to be shown. You know what I mean? when I
Look, to your point, it's hard to be a teacher, right? When you just said that,
yeah,
what it made me think about is imagine if doctors, lawyers, architects felt like I don't get paid enough to do this. In the middle of surgery, if a doctor was like, you know what, you can't even
right.
feed my children when I go home, I'm done. We would be short, right? But we treat teachers with so much disrespect. I recently said in an article that if they're the architects of the brain, which is what we believe they are, then pay them like architects, right? We are the ones that are developing children at an early age, supporting synapses, where all the brain development happens, but yet we treat us like the bottom of the totem pole. And it's just, it's not okay. And something has to change about it. It definitely has to be betterly done. But there are a lot of local places like DC was on the list. We're trying to take ourselves off the list, but New Mexico and New York get it now. And they're trying to do the right thing for children.
What you mean on the list? What list?
The list of people that figured it out and finally had it right, like pay
Oh,
equity had it
okay.
right. We had it right with that, paying teachers at that rate.
Yeah.
And all the stories will say we've done a lot on our website. If on our website we do have these teacher testimonials of teachers that talked about being homeless or living out their car, and now they can afford to actually be able to have stable housing. Or they talked about moving from other states where they made more money to make sandwiches at a Publix grocery store than they made as a teacher in that state. And so they moved to DC because they saw this opportunity. It's almost like the great migration. Like they saw this opportunity, they saw that they could finally be valued as a teacher, and now we're just stripping it away.
Just ripping the rug right from under. That's super sad to me because being in workforce development for so long and encouraging people to get into this industry for them to just smack you in the face with it. I'm 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 just glad that the leaders like you, and I know I work with Burner, and just the people that's on the boots on the ground, because I'm always stalking y'all LinkedIn. So I see y'all at the events, like in person, like y'all there.
Right.
And I just admire that so much because y'all not giving up. So just so the teachers that's out there know, let them know that there's people that's fighting for them, but it needs to be more people on it. That's what I said. I got to get to these meetings and get my stick in the air,
We
something,
got we
get my
got
big old mouth up there because I feel like, I don't know, like I said, I just feel like hopeless, like not helpless, but powerless. Like, what can I do about this with my little $20? But you're right,
tell
right in
your
the letter,
story.
tell the story,
Tell your story. Yeah.
tell my
Tell your story,
story.
right? Like how you feel, what you experienced, the workforce development stuff like that. Sometimes I do tell the council like I can get up there and I can read a good speech or I can talk about this, but they really don't want to hear, right? Because at the end of the day, they're like, you a CEO, you okay. But I tell them all the time, I said, let educator take 20% of my salary and see if I'm gonna be here. Like, we can't
Right,
do that to teachers. I wouldn't expect it to be done to me. But
right.
they really want to hear from parents, teachers, people that are being affected by this, because I think that is what makes them move, especially when you're a DC resident and you
Mhm.
can affect if they get back in office. So we got to use the power of our voices.
Yeah. And when it comes to the voting, what are the different, I guess, seats that are up right now? Because they're saying like, this is the time where it's like transitioning for the next level, not next level, but the next round of leaders. What are the different seats that we need to be looking at for voting as far as, that affects, everything is gonna affect childcare, but like what in particular?
Well, it would be any council seats that are up. I don't think all of them are up, but there's some people who are not running again. Like I know Ward 1, Brooke Pinto is not running, and so there'll be a new Ward 1 council member. So I would recommend people to look up who, if they live in that ward, who actually is running on a early child care agenda. And there's a couple of people out there that are. There's some at-large council seats, Robert White is running for Congress for DC for Eleanor um, Holmes Norton's role, and so his role would be open at large. So there's a lot of seats that are changing because people are running. Just like if Janice Lewis George wins mayor, then her council seat would be up. Um, Kenny McDuffie, I think, has already resigned from his council seat, if I'm not mistaken, to run for mayor. But there's going to be a couple of different changes out there.
Okay, because that's one of the things that I want to, get more well versed on who's who. because honestly, I'm not one of those people that know about all the seats and who's next and all of that. So I was like, I got to get more into it. I know there's other people like me that really need to be led in that way to open up the doors in their mind of what they can actually do. Because I'm a little baby activist. I don't wrote letters to Metro. I remember when I was younger, the Metro buses playing with me when I still live in the Southeast, but the other side of Southeast where I used to live. And I
Mhm.
would write my and I know it makes a difference because I've done it. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, okay, I got to get my pen hand strong again and really do this because I hurt my feelings so bad when I heard this. I was like, what? Because I'm out here the one promoting people to come into the industry, and they're like, they doing this and that. I'm like, what? When? And I'm like, how did I not know they took all the money? You know what I mean? So I'm like, wow. So when it comes to I know, like I said, all the things that you guys are doing to fight for this, I know in the midst of it, you are still, building and still really what I say, pouring into the leaders and the leadership. I want to talk about that part. Like, I want to, lighten up the conversation a little bit to the positive side of because there are people that are still doing their jobs. Like you said, you got to have a love for it. People that still want to be in this industry, people that still have a passion for education and see the importance of it. So let's switch gears and talk about your leadership program and
Yes.
what you're doing with that. Let's go through there.
Yeah, let's go there. You're right. A more positive note. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
working right now. We're working with DC Early Learning Collaborative, which I talked about earlier,
Mhm.
in partnership with them to pilot the Maurice Sykes Emerging Leaders Program. Now, as we know, Maurice Sykes was an amazing man. He had a lot of vision. He supported DC Mini EC, and he was a part of the DC Early Learning Collaborative. So we wanted to commemorate his name and his book by adding him to that program that Educare was already starting. Some of what we're going to do there is so the idea was this: we were already doing a training. It was called the Advanced Academy, the Advanced Advocacy and Leadership Academy, and it was for directors, and it was good. We had a good two groups of it. And I truly believed that we were supporting people that were already in their roles. They were directors. And I wanted to create something that supported people before they get there. Just
Yeah.
because of my experience as a leader, like I probably had some early leadership skills and had some good opportunities, but a lot of times I was promoted or put in a space and then I had to figure it out, right? Whether it was figured out with my supervisor,
Hmm.
figure it out on my own. We didn't have AI 8 years ago when I became school director, right? I couldn't write an individual professional development plan with AI, which we can do now. And so we had to figure it out. I want to help people not figure it out. I want them to determine whether this is what they want or not. Because I think leaders typically go into roles for more money, not because they're great leaders. And so I want to give people this immersion leaders opportunity to learn about decision making protocols, to learn about ethical leadership, to learn about the foundations of early childhood leadership, to learn about leading with empathy and thinking about emotional intelligence. And then there's one more section that we're going to do there. So right now, pilot program, like some Educare staff will be eligible for this, those who we are investing in, and they might be the next leaders within our organization, but then outside leaders too. So we're encouraging other sites, whether it's the teacher that's been there for 15 years that's looking for her next step, or the family engagement person that just received their master's in social work. Because I believe if we can grow leaders internally, then they won't leave and go everywhere else. But when you don't give them opportunities to leave or lead, they will leave. And so this program is doing that. There's also data that although teacher pay is super duper important, another aspect in jobs is having opportunities to grow. People will
Yeah.
actually stay if they have opportunities to grow. Now that means more money for them, but they want to be pushed, they want to be challenged, they want to be stretched. So a part of this emerging leaders program is actually having a stretch project that is, for young children. When we think about scaffolding, you put an object right outside of their reach, right? That's not attainable for them, and then you help them to get there. And so that's the premise of this emerging leaders is giving people a stretch goal that's outside of their current capability, and then providing mentors like myself, Berna, Travis, and Sally to help to guide and get them there.
I love this, Jamal, because my career with consulting, with workforce development, the career path was what was most important to people. Like you said, even if it's not just about money, they want to see growth in their career. And a lot of times, what I was seeing now, it's a lot better. But back in my day of workforce development, it was like assistant teacher, lead teacher, and then it's the director, and it's only one director, and most of the time they ain't leaving. So it's like once you're a lead teacher, it's kind of like the ceiling for you. So people are like, well, I'm not going anywhere here, and they're leaving for 25 cents more. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you built this career there, you about to leave for a quarter. But I had to think about the person. Like, you want to see achievement, you want to see growth, you want to feel, like you said, valued, and you also want to see that you can take this next step and there's something to look forward to, essentially, you know. But what I have realized with a lot of my clients, they throw people in those positions and out of desperation. I had a company I was working with. They had a lady that, she, not to say that she couldn't do the job, well, she didn't last more than a month. She was like the after school coordinator type of deal. But you know what I mean? But I guess she had a credential, so they was like, here, you're the new director because this person quit and she ain't know what to do, you know? And I'm like, ugh, like this is who I'm working with. Like, okay, now, you know, so there was no training, there was no nothing, you know? And then it was other situations where, like you said, a teacher had been there for a long time. So they're like, listen, you've been here a long time, you come up. And they didn't even want to do it. They kind of loved being in the classroom, but they needed them to do it because they needed somebody, they needed a body in there. And I'm like, yo, you can't just have a body in there. This is, and then they don't even understand what their role is. They don't know that they're supposed to be on top of enrollment or, you know what I mean? Like, you don't, how you getting students in here? Oh, I'm supposed to do that. I'm in there covering the baby room. What? Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I got to go drive the bus. Like, just even knowing the role and what it entails, you know? I'm just glad that you said the
You're on.
director piece. Like, I
You're
think that's,
spot on, LaToya. You're spot on. I think the first thing we're going to do in our program is have them do it's a motivational leadership assessment to determine how motivated you are to lead. Period. Right? Like, does it take a lot of energy out of you? Um, is it something that you're good at? Do you like it? Because it's to your point, right? That teacher, yeah, you know, when you hear $20,000 more, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it. But you really didn't want to do it. You only
right.
did it because it was $20,000 more, and you thought about that trip, you know, that cruise. Like, all right, I'm gonna get to have this fun, not knowing all the stress that's gonna come with it is gonna make you not even want to go on that cruise, or you're not gonna make it to the cruise, whether
Yeah.
you have a heart attack or you quit, right? So I think you have to be motivated to lead and be a leader in any field, and so that's a part of our process is want to assess how motivated they are to lead.
I love that because you know, even though like my role in consulting is usually marketing, but I bring in the workforce development part too because when I meet with an owner, about marketing. I'm like, bring your director. Like, are you? Because a lot of times the owner is not the director. They're just the owner, so they know what's going on. But I'm like, bring your director in. Oh, they don't need to be. If we're talking about marketing, I need to know what's going on, boots on the ground. What's happening in there? What are we doing? You know, let me get them numbers. And a lot of times they're like, oh, I gotta look. Ain't no way you the director and you gotta go look. You should know your numbers. Like, what are you doing? And I attribute it to they just don't have the training. And like you said, they get thrown into this position and they're just kind of winging it for real. And that's what happens. And then they get fired because they winging it. But it's like, how you gonna fire them when you threw them in the fire anyway, without any training, no type of transition? They don't then you get, this is another thing that I get, Jamal, where you started out as someone's peer in the classroom and now you've been snatched out of there. Now you're their boss. How do you handle that? You know
Oh,
what I mean?
that's yeah. I mean, I might have to teach that in this course. I'm talking to somebody about that now, and I tell my story. It happened with me in football. Like as a senior, I played, and then I was a coach because I graduated and I was done classes in December, and so like that next fall, I coached, and it was the worst experience I had in my life because it was like it was telling grown men, some older than you, or all your peers, what to do, and they like you was with us last year with the
Right.
foolishness,
That's just
and now you
Jamal.
trying to tell it right. That's Jamal. Like you was with us when we wasn't doing this. Now you gonna tell me to do it, and it was just like, oh. So what I learned from there in roles, I actually, if people would say like dress for the role you want and not what you have, I started to behave in a different way to always know that I would have been promoted so that people couldn't say that, so that they always saw
Mm,
me as that leader. And so even when I came to educate, I mean, as a teacher, when I worked for United Planner Organization, like people didn't think I was a teacher. I carried myself in a different way
mm.
just to make sure that that didn't happen. So that when I got promoted, people was like, "Oh, I get it. I get why they're promoted."
Yeah,
Not,
you
I
always
ain't
been
listening
like
to you
that.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good tip to tell people, like you said. But then that comes down to the motivation. If your goal was to be a teacher and educate, you really not even thinking about the whole, not even leadership per se, but being a director and what that means and how the dynamic will change. And even because when I worked in corporate, that happened to me. I moved up really fast, so I saw the animosity. People were like, "You think you all that now because you're a manager and all that." I'm like, okay, like you already know why I'm a manager. I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm a smack talker. I ain't gonna lie, because I'm like you know what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm competitive, but I had to learn that I didn't know I was going to be promoted and things like that. I was just in my role doing my thing, being the best that I could be. So when you're not thinking about that, you're not coming in the suit with acting like you're the manager because you feel like you are where you are. So it's like you said, I think catching them early and really seeking out, I would say not just building them but seeking out, because a lot of people have that leadership quality in them usually already, like because just like when you think of like the kids in the classroom, the loudest one is usually the leader. The class clown is who everybody's going to go after. And that's one thing with teaching, because I came, I used to teach, and I was a teacher's assistant in DCPS when I was young, and I worked in childcare for a while. And that's what I used to do. Like the kid that had the biggest mouth, I'd be like, you know what? Get over here. Let me show you this. Hey, pass these out to everybody. Get everybody
How can
together.
we help? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a great way to kind of seek out who are the natural leaders and kind of, I guess, incubate them and grow them up to really do that, because it takes confidence too. And that's one of the another things with leadership that I would say gets on my nerves as a workforce development person is when you see the the chaos in the staff. It shows you that the leadership is not strong because they showing favoritism. They don't have a backbone to speak to everybody in the same manner. Like they're letting people walk over them, and it causes resentment between the team. So I think that that's another thing with being a leader, because you got to make the tough decisions. Everybody's not going to like you. I've worked with business owners who they're crying to me talking about, oh, I had a meeting, and when they left behind, they drew a picture of me. She's crying. And I'm like, you never seen Sister Act? Like how they was sticking Whoopi butt to the chair. They gonna do that to the leaders. And you gotta have a thick skin, because they're gonna call you names behind your back. They're gonna be like, I can't stand her. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to lay down the law, or you have to be the bearer of bad news, all of those different things. So I think that, what you're doing is really gonna help a lot of people, and it's going to really grow businesses in that way too. Because I see businesses crumble because their leadership is weak, you know?
Right, right. And I think another thing to add to that, which is funny. I mean, you're making me think of these impromptu lessons I should probably add in. But you're
Yeah, come
absolutely
on, right
right.
a minute.
Yeah, you got to be able to listen. I'm from Prince George's. I was born and raised in Prince George's County. My dad was from DC, but you got to be able to Joan. You got to be able to get back. I walk in
Yeah.
the room, I'll be like this. They be like, "Shh, Mr. Berry here." I said, "Nah, keep it going. Keep that same energy. I don't want to know what y'all talking about. It's not gonna change unless you say it to my face. You know what I'm saying? They'll say something
Uh-huh.
on Zoom camera off. Like, come down here and say it to my face. Don't say it with your camera off. But it's joking, and it's like I want to create an environment where we can have casual, candid conversation, right? You
Yeah.
can say what you feel. Am I allowed to say what I feel back? I want to let you know what I think about your teaching. You can say what you think about my leadership. Let's have a back and forth, and let's both improve. So I
Mhm.
think that all goes down to relationships. I think a lot of leaders don't have relationships, and when you talked about, even though I say I tried to carry myself differently in roles as a precursor to the next role, I also still keep my relationships. Like the other day, I went in and coached the teacher. She was like, "Can you come in and just observe me for 30 minutes and give feedback?" Yes, I can. One, because I love doing it. I want to see adults thrive, but I still have those same relationships when I was a coach, when I was a school director, when I ran programs. I still can go talk to people. And so that, I think, people, when people know you, they know how you are genuinely. Although you might grow in roles, they'll still have that same respect for
Yeah, and like you said, I think it's a balance because sometimes people are scared to have any relationship with their staff because they don't want it to get misconstrued and be too friendly. But then you got some that's way too friendly with their staff. Y'all texting and talking about y'all night before. You ain't, come on
you.
now. Like it got to be a line somewhere. So it's like, how do you kind of keep that balance? You know?
I think teachers and people should be friends, right? Yes, you should have boundaries, but I think friendships, once again, in surveys, and like I think it's the Gallup survey, it asks if you have a friend at work, you're more than likely to stay. Like if there's somebody that's your homegirl,
Yeah,
because when you're friends, right? If I don't want to let LaToya down, I treat LaToya differently. My conference is different. My kind of how I come on the podcast is different because we have a relationship, which means if I fail, LaToya fails as my friend. And
yeah,
that's what actually keeps people engaged. So I actually try to tell people, I'm like, go find your people, find your friend. It ain't
yeah.
gotta be me. I don't want to be, but find your friend, and that's your person, and y'all should connect and create a relationship.
Yeah, I definitely think that helps, like having relationships at work with different friends and stuff like that. But I'm talking about like with your boss, like
Oh
your who you report to, how to have that balance where you do have a relationship with your staff, like knowing what's going on with them so that you can be privy to, like, if like say something really crazy happens in their life
right.
and you find out about it, because a lot of times people won't tell you what they're going through. Let's say if somebody's constantly late this week and they're not normally late, and now you like something's going on with them. Y'all about to get written up. Versus let's see what's going on with that person and see how we can support. I think that's a thing with leadership too, knowing how to really get there with a person where they feel comfortable enough to, they don't gotta tell you every little detail, but just letting them you in with what's happening with them will help them to, how do you say, understand what, like, let's say if you need them to stay late because you cared about them when they were having their issue, maybe with their kid. Like I did because with marketing, I love to hear the stories. I'm one of those people, like I love to hear like seniors when they talk about the old days. I'm like, tell me more. I'm popping popcorn. So with people when they tell me their stories, I'm like listening deep. And I remember I had a employee that was telling me how one of her teachers was having a hard time. She was coming in late and all that. And come to find out, she was going through a housing situation where she was getting put out and all that, but she was embarrassed about it. She didn't want nobody to know. But she wound up talking to her. And the owners, they got a few sentences. They actually stepped in and they had like a property that they didn't rent out, and was able to give it to her. Like, get her in there,
That's
you know what I mean? And support her. So that lady ain't leaving them. You know what I mean?
exactly
She's
that's
like,
the
you
way.
was
Yeah,
there for me like that. I got you. You know what I mean? Like how to kind of create those. Not everybody can offer up somewhere to live. I'm not saying everybody could do that, but I mean, even just caring enough to inquire. I think, all of that is a part of leadership. And just, and like you said, leading by example, like you said, how you conduct yourself, because like I said, I've had plenty of employers call me about the employees, because if I'm in staffing, I'm placing people. Of course, if something goes wrong or happens with the candidate, they go call me like I'm their mother. Like, oh yeah, this person did this, that, and the third. So I got to come down there like a referee, like, okay, tell me what happened. I mean, you tell me your side. And then when I hear the real story, the owner is just as ratchet as the person. So I'm like, wait, you said what? I'm like, oh, no, you can't do that. Like, yeah, but she didn't, like, they don't have no leadership skills, but you calling me to chastise the employee when you was the one texting them craziness. Like, who you talking to? Like,
yeah,
that
it
ain't
happens
your
all the
daughter.
time.
Like, you can't talk to her like that and think she ain't
Mhm.
gonna kick in your door.
Right.
Like, so I'm just excited about this because and shout out to Maurice Sykes, because I remember when I was approaching you guys about my Men in ECE series, and you guys I approached all of you guys. You guys came in as a group, and that's when I first met Maurice. And it was just so powerful how calm he was and how he spoke. It was so much conviction, and I just fell in love with him. So when I felt so honored that I got to see him and do an interview with him at the conference, the first one that y'all did. And it just his vibe was so like, we're gonna get it done, we're gonna do it. So I'm just glad that you are putting his memory out there, like with his book. And Dr. Gullen, he loves Maurice. So he said that when he's seen him on the show, he was like, how did you get Maurice on the show? I was like, I just asked him, and he said yes. So they all came. And he was like, that's my mentor. So that's when he told me that was his mentor. I was like, wait, what? Because Dr. Gunn like 55 years in. So I'm like, well, damn, how many years do Maurice have if he's mentoring 55-year-old? I mean, not 55-year-old, but 55-year of experienced people. So I'm just so glad that you're able to do this, Jamal. And I'm glad that you're in the position that you are in to really push people. And I could honestly say I see the work. I see you doing. You're not just talking. You're out there doing it, and that just makes me so proud. So proud. I that's why I said, let me know. Get me on the list so I could come out and get my little. I gotta make a sign or something. I don't know, a T-shirt.
I have a sign for you.
You got a
Have all
sign for
that
me?
for you. Yeah.
All that, and
Come
I
on,
need me
all
an
that.
educator T-shirt so I could be out there. Yeah, because I love it because I love to disrupt something, in a good way. That is not disruption is not always bad. You know what I mean? So it's when you have a cycle of negativity or just not people not caring, they do need to be disrupted. You know what I mean? When the system is breaking down, or maybe there is lack of a system, there needs to be some disruption, and there's a lot of complacency, and people just kind of sit there and take it. And I feel like in ECE, we've been taking it for too long. It's time. It's time for things to change, and for real.
You got it right. Listen, yeah. I'm not even gonna
So
get on my activism. I just left Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had our Educare National Summit there, and it was beautiful. So we brought all 26 schools together and different people from the schools. But one of the best experiences, we got to go to Greenwood Street and go to the museum where the race riots happened in Tulsa, where they burnt down the Black Wall Street, and got to tour the museum. And so, like you said, we are a resilient people. We used to this. We know how to fight.
right.
And I think even in Tulsa, they fought to get their economy back and seeing all that. So I definitely got a little inner activism in me too.
I know that's right. And then your background with Martin Luther King, you got Malcolm X up there. Everybody, I love that you keep that in front of you. Just, I guess, keeping it. Look at the fist right there next to you. You know what I mean? Black fist in the building, just letting it know, letting it be known. And I love that you're not scared to speak out, And like I said, we need strong leaders, and we definitely need to have more men in the industry. Like I've been saying that, with the gender balance and things like that. So I'm just so glad that we have people like you that's out there really fighting for this, and making a way for not just the teachers that are here, but the teachers to come, so that people still want to do this. You know what I mean? Because that's what I be afraid of. People saying that, like, when you ask a little kid, what you want to be when you grow up? And they talking about they want to be a damn influencer. I'm like, okay, well, you mean a teacher? No, I want to be a podcaster. You mean like a, like, no, I want to be a streamer like Consonant. And I'm like, that's cool. But I'm like, I want people to still want to be teachers. And like you said, the way it seems, it will turn me off. Like, I'm about to do that when they doing this, that, and the third. So we have to find a way to make it great again, I guess. As far as make it look good, make it feel good, make it taste good, all of those
You can't
things.
say that too loud. Make it great again. I'll mess with you.
You know what I'm talking about. Just give people a reason to live their dreams, and
Yes.
and then we definitely need it, because like I said, these kids coming out wilding, and then or AI, and like you said, they use the AI for everything. Like I'm gonna tell you the story. I make my kids write essays when they do, not want to say wrong, but when they don't go
I
in
got
the
you.
direction I want them to go in. So I need a thought process happening, because I feel like they don't gotta write anything in school. They write these little essays here and there. But I know that when it comes to life, you have to be able to express yourself. So I had my daughter, I took her phone, because the kids are addicted to the phones or whatever. And I was like, nah, if you not doing well in your class, you're not getting up in the morning, like you're not calling your grandparents, like what is this phone doing for you? how is it adding to your life? So I had to do an essay on it. And I have a procedure of my essay assignments. You got to write it by hand, and I have to, do the critique and give you my notes on it. And then when I say it's okay, then you got to type it up and you got to email it to me from your Gmail. All of the things, right? Because I feel like they don't teach them that in school. So I teach them about like you have to be able to do these things, and it's a process. Do you know this little shorty had the nerve to text me a whole long thing, and she used AI. Now, a part of me was proud that she was resourceful, but a part of me was like, you think I'm a stupid little girl? Like, the first part was her, but the rest of it was an iPhone commercial. I didn't let her see me, but I'm laughing like, yo, this little girl crazy as a mug. So
We're trying to outsmart you.
they tried, and I'm like, yeah, you tried it. You know what I mean? But I said, I don't want you using AI because this was about your thought process, and I don't want you to lose your thought process. Okay. And she was like, okay. So she did her thing because she wanted that phone back. So I'm like, you're not getting it back till I could get a real reason of what you're going to do with it. And how is it going to support you in your life? Because I didn't grow up with a phone, definitely not no iPhone. And I was okay. You know what I mean? So I'm like, you don't really need it. But like I said, with the kids doing everything on AI and everything, I'm glad that one thing is we still have real educators and we still have opportunities for them to get hands-on learning and be with their peers. So I'm just grateful.
Something else that's interesting, Toya, it just, oh Lord, you make me remember all these things, but I'm actually also, last thing, this is why I don't sleep, but I'm on a commission with the National Black Child Development Institute on child safety. And some of the stuff we're talking about is like AI safety. So how can we help to push legislation, whether it regulates it in schools, regulates it in homes, partners with somebody to make sure that Black children are safe and that
Mm-hmm.
we aren't, because these organizations just keying on it, right? So if your daughter keeps putting something in AI or is curious, right? Now you start to get, Google messages, or you start to get stuff that comes up on other social media because of that. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not okay. And their minds are just too young to really know what's right or wrong. They're like, oh, it came through my phone. It has to be true. So we just gotta, we gotta put things in place to stop all that and regulate that.
Yeah, I'm just glad that now the schools are confiscating their phones for the day. And I remember when my kids were in elementary school, my twins, and there was a kid there who refused to give her phone up. And the mom came up to the school to fight the teacher. I was like, what? Take them damn phones. Like they don't have no reason to be calling nobody in the middle of the day. So I was all for it. I was one of the parents that signed for that. Like, take their phone. Because we want to know their location and all of that, but they don't need to be having their phones when they're at school. They need to actually learn and read. And be looking at getting AI to answer the question on your test. Like, no, remember that. Because I don't even remember nobody's number by heart. So I know if my brain is tripped out. You know what I'm saying? Just from, we used to know people's phone numbers, Jamal, and now I'm one of them. I know my phone number.
I know a couple. I know a couple just because I just got to test myself. But yeah, you're right. Not any new numbers, but if it's old,
Yeah.
10, 15 years, I know those numbers.
Yeah, they had it a long time, but most people changed it like their drawers. So it's hard to keep up with it, because the Verizon got a new sale. You just switch the number so you get the free phone. So people will change their numbers so often. But I think about how it affects me as a person. So I'm like, I know these kids, a little fly on the wall. Well, Jamal, I'm excited. We are down to the wire, down to the end, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And I wrote down these different places where we can get the list of not just the list of who we need to be writing, but even a sample letter, like the DC Action for Children, Under 3 DC Early Learning Collaborative. Those are the ones that you mentioned, right? That we can go and really find out how to get involved. So I'm gonna go and do my part because I'm like, all I gotta do is get the letter. I'm like, okay, I could do that, and throw my $20 in the in the pot.
Throw your 20 in the pot. Give us your
And
tithes and offering, yes.
and put me on the list, Jabon. Put me on the mailing list when y'all have these rallies. And I want my t-shirt and my sign because I will be there. And y'all, I'm a Ward 7 resident. Shout out to DC. So I'm definitely down for the get down because I even see my neighborhood changing. Like the programs that my kids used to be in and it used to be free. Not no more. My neighbor told me, like my kids was in the tennis, Washington Tennis and
Yep.
Richmond Foundation. My kids thrived there up until the pandemic when they kind of shut everything down. My neighbor just told me they charging like $400 a week. And I can see, I'm looking at the tennis courts right now. Every day I see nothing but white legs, like just running around the courts. And I'm like, wow, like this was a great resource for this community, and now it's gone. So thank you for fighting. Put me on the list, like I said, so I can get up in there with my sign and my fist. And yeah, and then we're gonna go from there. We ain't letting them go.
Yes, ma'am. Well, it was nice spending time with you today. Thank you for the
Thank
invite.
you. Anytime, anytime, anytime you want to come back, come on. It's always a space for you. And like I said, when you got an opportunity for me to come over there with y'all, let me know. I got the metro right here. I'll slide right on through. And you know, I used to live in Mayfair, so I know that area real good.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right, all right, y'all. So Jamal is getting on out of here. I got 4 minutes to do my announcements, and Jamal, I will see you later. I'm gonna do my little announcements, and then we're out of here. Thank
See
you
ya.
so much. And remember to check on him, follow him on LinkedIn. He's all over the place. LinkedIn, Jamal Berry. Okay. You won't miss him. He's gonna come up the first person. Because I know because I stalked him.
Thank you, LaToya.
You're welcome. So, hey guys, as you know, we are doing big things over here at Craft, and I always got to take this moment to just give you my updates. You already know our app, Craft Plus, is on the move. You can go to our website at www.betterfuturesdc.com/, Craft Plus, or no, watch, yeah, Craft Plus. Because if you go to just the basic website, like the homepage, it's a button right on the top that says watch Craft. Now, coming up real quick, matter of fact, let me tell y'all, you know, I got to share my screen because speaking of DC, I just, hold up, let me put it up here. I got all my tabs up, you guys. So you already know, y'all don't need to be all in my business. But what I wanted to tell you guys is just like I just said, all of the different leaders in DC, the heavy hitters, we either have a partnership with them or we have them on our team. Okay. They've either been on the Craft Cafe live show or they are one of our instructors. So here we are. Berna Artist, she is the executive director for the DC AEYC, and she has a class coming up. We just postponed it. It was supposed to be Tuesday, but it is on the 19th, which is this Tuesday coming up. This is her session right here, leading people, not just programs, building trust, culture, and community. Remember, we're all about leadership at Craft, and we know what they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So when you are in leadership, you have everything on your head, on your shoulders, and everybody's not going to like everything that you do, but you have to look at the greater good. So this is just about the people part of it, because a lot of times you're so busy thinking about the program, you're not thinking about what is being affected. And that's one of the things that we were just talking about with Jamal. So I want to let y'all know that that's coming up on Tuesday. So if you are a member, you should have gotten the update and the link, okay? Next up, we got my, this is not a class, you guys. If you've come to my marketing classes, I have a brand booster series going on right now in 2026. So what this is our logo clinic. This is where you come into the fold. It's meeting style and we critique. We talk about your branding. We talk about your logo. I will critique it for you. And I might not have any updates for you. That's not the point. The point is, how can we make it better? How can we make it bolder? How can we get your story out there and tell people what it is that you really do and make your business apparent to people? Because a lot of times people don't know about you, and if they knew about you, they could go ahead and take advantage of what you are offering. So we're going to be talking about that. So this is our safe space. We come in, ask any questions. We play around with any colors. We also have, I have documents that I'll give. I have handouts where it gives you formulas to create your tagline, your motto, all of those things. Okay. And those are things that's important. Like when you think of the big brands, they all have a tagline that helps you remember what they do and what they do best. Okay. So we're going to be talking about that. So if you're not a member, definitely become a member. If you're a member, I don't care what membership you have with Craft, you are eligible for the logo clinic. Come on down. All right. I want to see you. Okay. Now, this is another class we got coming up on May 26th. This is with Jackie B. Davis, our co-founder and president. He is doing identity theft. Now, let me tell you, I've had my business account was hacked last year. Shout out to PNC Bank for being diligent and getting my money back. Okay, let me tell you, I have family members who have had their identity stolen, and right now cybersecurity is big. Y'all already know they holding some company. What is that? Not Aspen. One of those education platforms. They're like the cyber pirates are holding them hostage or something. Canvas, something like that. And so this is about protecting what's yours, okay? So make sure that you come to this webinar. If you're a member, if you're not a member, like I said, become one so you can get these classes. And those of you who can make it, remember, you can watch it live, not live, but the live recording on the Craft Plus app. So, if you guys are busy or, anything can happen. Want to make sure that you still get the information. All right. Next up, this is another one from Jackie B. Davis, MBA, and this is the F around and find out. Okay, this is a better approach to nonprofit leadership and childcare associations. And that's one thing we were just talking about is the nonprofit status. A lot of you guys, especially the childcare association, are nonprofits, but we want to make sure that not only are you marketing your nonprofit, that you're actually building it and you got the right board and you are raising money, guys, because that's the whole point why people be a nonprofit, so that they could go out for all of the funding and stuff. Yeah, you want to do a greater good and all that, but you can do that with a for-profit business too. But the permissions that you have with a nonprofit, you already know is through the roof. And when you're really trying to do something for the greater good, you're trying to advocate, you're trying to support other businesses, you need to be able to take risks and jump out there and really get people's eyeballs on it and get those funders in there. There's so many unrestricted grants out there, and we're going to help you find it. Okay. So come on in here and get that knowledge, you guys. All right. So that's about it. I just wanted to kind of give you something quick. I love to, talk to you about all of the things that we have going on. So there you have it. Shout out to FCCEF. That's the Family Child Care Enrichment Foundation out of North Carolina, led by that's a whole child care organization down in North Carolina, led by Vincent Savage. Alyssa, the whole crew, Miss Pat, Wanda. I went to their conference/retreat and I had a good time. I know y'all see my videos posted. I was all over the place. And I'm not even done, you guys. You're going to see even more because I had so much footage. I have so much to do. I don't get everything out at once, but y'all are going to see it. We had so much fun, so much healing, you guys. And in this community in ECE, everybody works so hard and are so selfless and give to the children and families. It is time to give back to the providers, okay, that work tirelessly day in and day out. I have never been to a conference like this where it's all about you, the person, okay? And as a mother, happy Mother's Day to everybody that just celebrated Mother's Day, whether you are a mother in birth or in earth, you know what I mean, or of pets. I got a lot of people who got their fur moms and stuff like that. If you giving yourself to another person in that way, taking care of them, you deserve that too. All right. So, but y'all have that same energy for Father's Day too, when Father's Day rolls around. All right. Well, guys, I just want to say thank you guys for supporting my show. Please make sure that you are following the channel on YouTube, subscribe, like, share. And if you have a story or you have something that you want to share, please contact me. You can slide in my DMs, as they say, and let me know, because I would love to bring you on the show and talk more about it. And even if you don't want to come on the show, you want to do a private interview, we can do those too. All right, because I love to promote the voices of ECE. And it doesn't have to be just a child care teacher or a business owner. Any business or person that supports children and families is a friend of mine. All right, so come on out. And I'll see y'all later. Have a great weekend, y'all. Bye.